Hi, my name is Samar. I also go by Sam or First Time Panner, whichever you like to call me, that's fine. Today's video will be about my 2023 Pan That Palette or palette panning type scenario plan. Considering how 2022 went with my Pan That palette, I'm not saying this is going to be set in stone, but this is what I hope will happen for next year. And I've gone back and forth with this probably 10 times on how I was going to do things. So I've thought a lot about this, and for now I'm happy with my decision of what I'm doing. But of course things change and we'll just see how it goes. But before I talk about that, I want to talk about what's on my eyes right now. I just filmed yesterday and I was wearing something similar, except my eyeshadow, I use a different palette for a very cool tone eyeshadow look, and today I'm using a different palette for a very warm tone look. And I feel like this lipstick, I don't know if this lighting kind of makes me look a little dead. Also, I was just walking in the rain because when I was getting my coffee it was raining and I still went anyway because I need my coffee. And I walked to the coffee shop that's next to where I live, so I got really rained on and I just powdered a little bit before this, but it doesn't look as good as it was looking before, but this is a very warm toned look. I'll try to, I have hot chocolate in my hand because the candle behind me is a hot chocolate scented candle. It's hot cocoa and cream from Bath and Body Works and it smells exactly like hot chocolate, so I wanted some. But this palette is the Jaclyn Hill Divine Neutrals palette from Morphe. I got this last year during their end of the year holiday sale, and this is the first time I'm ever using it, even though I was really happy and excited about this when I bought it, because I mean it's like, let me try to cover this up so I don't blind you. It's a very neutral palette, and that's kind of what I love. And maybe let's see. Okay, yeah, I'll do it like this. This is easier. So today I have on my eyes, I set my eyeshadow primer with this one just barely, and then I put Good Vibes, which is kind of a warm tone, mid-tone brown, as my transition color, and then I put Boo Bear in my crease, and then I have a combination of Good Vibes, Boo Bear, and then Booked, this slightly darker warm tone brown on my lower lash line. And then I mixed Exposed and Striptease, these shimmers, on my lid, which kind of created this antique grungy gold, which is actually really pretty, like prettier than I thought it would be. And then I put a I can't remember the name of it, an Urban Decay eyeliner in Double Life on like all over my waterline. And then I just did the rest of my makeup as usual, but I really love this palette. I was considering doing this one for my 2023 Pan That palette because it is such a good neutral palette, but I actually decided on something else, and I'll show you right now. That's good. So the palette that I eventually chose to be my focus palette for 2023 is my Sigma Ambiance palette. And this is also, you probably know, this is also a very neutral brown and gold palette, just like the Jaclyn Hill one is. Although I think this has even more gold in it, as the Jaclyn Hill has like a pink and like a dark taupe shimmer. This is literally just brown and gold, which is why I bought it, because those are kind of like my everyday colors and these are like my comfort colors. And I ended up choosing this one over the Jaclyn Hill palette because I feel like when I finally made my final decision, I decided I definitely wanted to pan a neutral palette because I was going back and forth between doing like multiple palettes a month or like a palette rotation, because I have lots of palettes that kind of go unused if I don't do that. But then I was like, oh, then I'll have to use like a new palette every 2 weeks, and then what if I just am not feeling those colors at the moment? Will I just neglect it? So I finally decided I'll just pan something that I can use on an everyday basis, and then whenever I feel like using a different palette, I can use that no matter what time of the year it is. I'm not setting any goals for myself like on a regular basis. I can just use what I want when I want, and then have my go-to palette if I don't have anything in mind and for like everyday work looks. And I decided to go with the Ambiance rather than the Jaclyn Hill palette because this I feel like has more options for tones, whereas the Jaclyn Hill, even though it has more options for shimmers, it is a completely warm palette, and I wanted something that I can use all year, where I feel like this one, even though it doesn't really have many, maybe it has like one cool tone, it has warm tones and neutrals, and I feel like I like using neutrals more for work, and I don't want to have to use neutrals or warm tones all year for like winter when I don't feel like wearing warm tones as much, even though I'm wearing a warm tone look today. But yeah, I am excited to use this. I've actually never used this palette, which is another reason why I chose to pan this for 2023. So I don't know how long it's going to take. I don't really know much about the formula. I do have one other Sigma palette that I have used before, but I only used it once, and it's not a neutral palette. So I don't really know how long things are going to take. The only thing I know about this is because I have swatched everything, it is a drier formula, not dusty, but it's a lot drier than the formulas that I tend to use, such as like Morphe or Dose of Colors. So not only are the mattes a little bit more dry and less, there's less kick up, like the Dose of Colors or like EBH, but the shimmers are also more of a dry formula rather than a type of cream to powder like with the ABH and the Morphe palettes. So I have no idea how this is gonna go for me. I'm still excited to use it, and no matter what, I want to get good use on this because it's just a good palette that I don't want to go to waste. So even if I'm not hitting actual pans on this, I still would like to track my progress on it and just allow myself to enjoy this, because I bought it and so far I like it. I like the color story. I haven't seen any patchiness from swatches, and I've heard really, really good things about the Sigma formula, so I am excited to use this. And I will do monthly updates, so I'll update, and I'm hoping to upload this sometime in the first week of January, and then I'll just do an update at the end of that month or the beginning of the next month, whatever, however it works out. So for the first month, I don't think I will really have any major like dips or disturbances, because I'll probably just be kind of like testing out the palette as a whole, seeing what I like, seeing what works for when I go to work every day, because I don't want a super like bold look for work every day, and I want something that I can do really quickly. But I am excited to start using this, and I'll definitely give all of my thoughts and a full review on this palette for my first update. Now, if you have been following my Instagram before or like seen some of my other videos where I talk about this, then you're probably confused because I was saying for a while that I was going to continue panning the palette that I was panning this past year. And I'm not going to be doing that, obviously, for a few reasons. And the palette that I've been panning in 2022 is the Jaclyn Hill palette from Morphe, the original Jaclyn Hill palette. And as you can see, I got some pretty good use. I just stuck my finger in the black. I got some pretty good use on this throughout 2022. This actually is my favorite palette in general, in my whole collection, because even though it's not like a rainbow palette, I still do get some color in this palette. And I feel like the color that I do get is enough for most of the year, and then I have some other palettes that I can draw from if I do want more variety. But this, I feel like, aside from a few shades that I just didn't care for on myself, I feel like this was pretty much my perfect everyday palette, or like my perfect year-long palette, which is why I chose to pan it, and also it's my oldest palette. But I decided to not only not pan this again, but declutter it. And so I'm a little bit sad about it, but in the future, I think I will repurchase this palette. Hopefully they'll still make this palette by the end of 2023, because I definitely will repurchase this by then. If they say they're going to discontinue it, I'll try to get my hands on it before then. But I am planning on purchasing this again just because I love it so much. But not only have I been panning it for, I feel like, long enough where I'm ready to branch out to another palette, but also this is my oldest palette. It's going on its 6th year now, because I did get this in the very first launch that this palette ever had. So this is from the very first batch. And also, it kind of got a little bit contaminated. Sounds gross, but I guess that is what happened. So my cat walked all over this while I had it open on my bed, and it's just kind of gross because even though cats are clean, you never know, like, when they last cleaned themselves. They use their litter box, and I don't really need to go into the gross details, but I just feel like though I could sanitize this, I would still feel kind of gross about it, and I don't want to really get even chance getting an eye infection. And I mean, I have so many other palettes that not only are good palettes that I need to start using, but this one I feel like I can finally let go of. And I was so attached to this palette, especially because it has some fairly unique tones in it, at least to my collection. So the mattes that I have the biggest dips in or pan in are these, like, for example, Pooter, and I have a pan in Buns, and some of the darker browns. They're really beautiful purple mauve tone browns. So I do, of course, like the warm neutral browns in here because that's kind of my go-to, but I feel like this palette opened my eyes up to how much I like mauve tones in my eyeshadows, especially mauve tone browns, because they're super simple colors that I love for every day. And I was kind of sad that if I got rid of this, that I wouldn't be able to use it anymore. But I did use in the last video that I filmed, which I think should be uploaded before this one, but in the last look I filmed, I was using my Pretty Cool palette from Dose of Colors, and even though it does lean slightly deeper than the browns in here, it has the same types of tones, so mauve tone browns. So I feel like that could satisfy my need for those tones in my collection at least long enough until I repurchase this palette. And yeah, I think I'm finally ready to let go of this, even though it's going to pain me because this is still my favorite palette. I kind of have to move on. You know, if you love something, let it go. But basically what I'm saying is, if I still need this palette in my life, then I'll repurchase it. And goodbye, the Jaclyn Hill palette from Morphe. Hello, Sigma Ambiance. So that concludes my video for my Pan That palette. I think I actually can't remember who started this whole Pan That palette idea, so I'll find them and I'll put them either on the screen or I'll link them. I'll definitely link them in my description, but that will be my introduction for my 2023 Pan That palette. We'll see how things go, but other than that, thank you for watching and I will see you next month.